videos are strictly for the educational purposes of my children and family to grow and develop a more substantial foundation.
This is Secret Life of Symbols.
Today, we're going to talk about corporations. The United States of America no longer exists. And the reason why it doesn't exist, we are now a corporation. We're not a country. And the reason why is because many years ago, there was something happened here called the Civil War. And the Civil War, we're told, was one of the bloodiest wars humans have ever fought on the earth. It was a very bloody war. And so after it was over, it was understood that we are now, after the war, many things, but united was not one of them. One half of the country was killing the other half. And there's a lot of bad feelings among the Americans back and forth between North and South. Well, it was decided, all right, then let's do this. Let's have a United States corporation. We'll start a company. We'll call it the United States Corporation. It'll be a privately run municipal corporation. And we'll call it the United States Corporation. So therefore, everyone who is here will become an employee of the corporation. If you're working for this corporation, when you're on duty, you always usually have some sort of an identification tag showing that you're an employee of the company. As long as you are working and you're making money, then you are contributing to the company, the corporation. You're on the company time, so to speak. And so you are making money, and therefore you're paying out bills and paying out taxes and fines and fees and all of that. And so you are securing the corporation. They need the money, and so you're giving them the money. You're making the money and giving it to them. So you are a security. Water is the basis for our economics, period, on the earth. Because in the ancient world, is going far back as the earliest times in the Roman Empire, the powers that be in the world then realized that they started to build their economic system in the Roman Empire based on the Phoenician Canaanite system of commerce in the Middle East, because they knew how to make money, they knew how to control money. So the ancient Romans understood and finally figured.
Just so you know, Canaanites, he said the Phoenician Canaanites, Phoenician, shortened to Phashi, which basically means face, symbolism. Canaanites is basically the pictures that you've seen in the Egyptians' days where the god was dressed as a dog, a big canine. That's where they get canine, Canaanites. So pay attention.
Get out that there should be two laws on the earth. The earth is two things. The earth is water and land. So there should be a law for the water and a law for the land.
Pay attention to that. Law of the land, law of the water. Water means, who is it that's over the water that's in the military? The Marines, or the Navy, or the Coast Guard. Marine, maritime. Maritime law is water law. Law of the land is your land laws, like the federal government laws, which is United States Code, USC, or Indiana Code, IC. Examples. There you go. Mothers, which are maternal, are basically people are made of water, right? So mothers hold water when they're pregnant. Therefore, mothers are subject to maritime law, which is actually laws of water. That's why Britain, UK, they claim the waters, because the queen, she is the water, the queen bee, she is water. Then men are land. He's going to explain this in very good detail. Pay attention.
So today we even have terms that say that's the law of the land. Why do you distinguish it law of the land? Because there's another law called the law of the sea or the law of water. So the law of the land is the laws that govern the culture of people on a particular spot of land.
Not to confuse anybody, but he said law of water is also known as the law of the sea. You know who is known as the sea? As in, we know sea as SEA, which is water. The Holy See, which means SEE, which was shortened for seed, basically SEED, is the Vatican. Vatican, the Pope. There you go. The Vatican owns everything. But anyways, listen. The waters, the sea, land is man. There you go.
And so when you go to another country, you should be aware that there's a law of the land, which means there's a custom. You have to get used to the way people live and the way they do things. There's another law that supersedes.
What I'm going to do is rewind this so you can hear everything in detail in a row.
It's corporation.
That's something you need to look at too.
And so after it was over, it was understood that we are now, after the war, many things, but united.
Do you see this map? 19 free states, 4 Union slave states, 11 secreted slave states. So in order to get you to work for the United States Corporation as a U.S. citizen, that's your position title, you are now a slave as a U.S. citizen. When you are an American, you are a naturalized being. It means you were born, but that's if once you accept a Social Security card and birth certificate, you are no longer naturalized. You are now a U.S. citizen. Therefore, you are a slave, debt slave.
Was not one of them. One half of the country was killing the other half. And there's a lot of bad feelings among Americans back and forth between North and South. Well, it was decided.
Pay attention to this. He says right here, federal corporations. It gives you the definition. A federal corporation operating within a state is considered a domestic corporation. Okay, domestic, that means local. So they are a local corporation rather than a foreign corporation. A foreign corporation would be one in other states or other countries. The United States government is a foreign corporation with respect to a state. Okay? So that means basically they give the states the jurisdiction. They make the rules. Just like when I filed in court, I am an authored agent of my person. They said, what's an authored agent? I am the authorized agent. So in that document I put, I am authorized agent in respects to, what's it called? In persona or in locus parentis, which means representing myself within my person. I am the person. So in respects to my person, I'm still representing as authored agent in the person. So this is pretty much saying the United States government is a foreign corporation with respect to a state. So basically they still trump the state, but the state is still the main lawmaker of your local sovereignty, which is like Indiana is a sovereignty, each state is a sovereignty. So, and then you combine them all and they call it the United States.
All right, now let's do this. Let's have a United States corporation. We'll start a company. We'll call it the United States Corporation. It'll be a privately run municipal corporation. And we'll call it the United States Corporation.
This is very true. United States Corporation Company. Here's how you know. It won't let me search by voice, so. United States Corporation Company. This is how you look. Go to Alaska. Alaska is not upheld by us. It's a free land. Alaska. Let's see. Where's it? Antarctica. I think it's Alaska. SOS. search. Business search. There it is. Corporations, businesses, Alaska Department of State. Yep, this should be it. And then you go to business search real quick. That. It's alright, we don't need that. Anyways, I got it saved. So, in my pictures, go to it. I got screenshots all the way to the bottom. Here we go. Oh, I have that one there. Somebody I've been watching. See, search database. Corporations. There you go. Rothschild Asset. Rothschild Financial, limited liability company, pay attention. Rothschild Ventures, that's a 30302, or here you go, 28668F is the number of the business. Here's the number of the business, 28668F, still the same. Rothschild Asset Management, going down, tells you where the address is. Agent name, United States Corporation Company, right there real big. Pay attention to that. There you go. Registered mailing address. I saved it in my phone. Alright, back to the video. Just so you know that that is actually a business. That's all the United States is. Big old business.
So therefore, everyone who is here will become a employee of the corporation. And if you're working for this corporation, when you're on duty, you always usually have some sort of an identification tag showing that you're an employee of the company. As long as you are working and you're making money.
Hear that? As long as you got an identification tag. What's your identification tag? Your state ID. And state ID is your identification tag. Because you have to carry it at all times, right? They tell you if you walk around without your state ID, you're considered an alien, and there's actually charges for that. Give you probation, petty things, make you do community service. They charge you. They'll put you in jail if you keep doing it as an habitual offender.
Then you are contributing to the company, the corporation. You're on the company time, so to speak. And so you are making money, and therefore you're paying out bills and paying out taxes and fines and fees and all that. And so you are securing the corporation. They need the money, and so you're giving them the money. You're making the money and giving it to them. So you are a security.
So you get that. He said, when you work, you are making money. Technically, the definition of making money would be you constructing it, making it, like they do at the Federal Reserve. But basically, that's what it means. When you're working, you're making that money, therefore you're securing the business. You're giving that business more security because, just like a woman who has a child, she wants a man to make her feel more secure when he's working because he's bringing money home while she keeps the kids. He is securing his woman. So there you go, same thing. When people work, you secure the business, the United States Corporation. That money is their money. That's the Federal Reserve's money. It's not yours. Even though you make it, they can take it from you. They can actually denote it and make it nothing, a value of zero. They can do anything they want at any time.
Water is the basis for our economics, period, on the earth. Because in the ancient world, is going far back as the earliest times in the Roman Empire, the powers that be in the world then realized that they started to build their economic system in the Roman Empire based on the Phoenician Canaanite system of commerce in the Middle East, because they knew how to make money and they knew how to control money. So the ancient Romans understood and finally figured out that there should be two laws on the earth. The earth is two things. The earth is water and land. So there should be a law for the water and a law for the land. So today we even have terms that say that's the law of the land. Why do you distinguish it law of the land? Because there's another law called the law of the sea, or the law of water. So the law of the land is the laws that govern the culture of people on a particular spot of land. And so when you go to another country, you should be aware that there's a law of the land, which means there's a custom. You have to get used to the way people live and the way they do things. There's another law that supersedes that law, which is far more important. It's called the law of the sea. And the law of the sea is the law of water. And the law of water is simply banking, banks. Banks are all over the world. All banks operate the same. They operate on water. And so the bottom line is that...
Example he's going to give you, banks operate on water. Therefore, they are foreign businesses because water is not land. So therefore, if you want a banking business, it's a foreign entity because it's not domestic. There you go. So, bank. How's a good way to remember it? What he's going to tell you is bank of water. The banks of the water side. There is the other side of the water is a bank. Get it? Just like vessels. Semis are considered vessels. Vehicles that move in commercial transactions are considered vessels because vessels connect bodies of water. Just like your vessels in your body connect different, veins or different parts of your organs or whatever. I don't really understand the body, but it's a good example. He'll explain it.
Your commerce is based on water.
Commerce, he said, your commerce is based on water. Commerce means commercial transactions, like, hauling freight, selling freight from country to country, but it's all handled on water. They move the freight through water. Now you got FedEx and stuff, which is also airplanes are considered freight, which is also still considered water.
All ships, airships, rocket ships, sailing ships, I don't care what it is. If it's a ship, it's always referred to as a female. It's all.
Hear that? He said airships. Airships are actually airplanes. So airplanes are considered ships, which are still upheld by water. And here he's explaining to you, if you remember back in the old days, that ships were always named women names. Like this one here, the Lady L, or whatever it may be. Pearl. My Lady Pearl. Things like that. Always named women names because women carry the load. Women carry babies. They carry the merchandise. They carry the valuables.
Always she. The captains of any ship will tell you, oh, she's a good ship and she's seaworthy and oh, she's this and she's that. What do you mean she? The reason why captains call their ships she is because she delivers the product. And the product is usually based on water and when her...
Hear that? She delivers the product. Whenever you have a child, the doctor says it's time to take the mother, to the delivery room. Doctor, shortened doctor. Doctor means dock. You dock the ship at the bay. Therefore, the ship docks at a bay, and then they deliver the product. You deliver a woman to the hospital, which is where the doctor is. And then they deliver the merchandise, which is the child. That's where they assume property of your children as their property. Yes, children are property in law.
Water breaks, there's a product. And the product was caused by the male manufacturing. So he has manufactured and she is in labor, building.
Get that? So, the manufacturing, the man is factoring the child to the woman who therefore goes into labor, wherefore labor is delivering the product. So delivery system and the system of, birth and children, it's all the same words, but people recognize them differently. So therefore, it has same definitions technically, but they basically manipulate the system and in the laws. That's how they overtake something, because they just manipulate the word to define as something else.
Product. And so the product is based on water, because when her water broke, the product comes out. If you're going to get married, you have to have a license, because getting married, according to our laws today under the corporation, if you are getting married, you are an employee whose first duty is to the corporation, and so therefore you need to work and pay your bills and pay your taxes and everything, because you're a security for the body social. The body social means the whole company. When you retire, which means you're going to bed, you're going to sleep, or you're going to quit, you're going to retire, you get Social Security. No, you are the security for the body social. And so they're going to give you a few dollars to live on, keep you alive, because if they don't, you're going to get all very upset you don't have any money to live on, and they're going to call.
So you hear that? He got a little off track there when he started talking about different things. He said when you get married, you have to get a license. Therefore, your license is good for you to get married. So in order for you to branch off and get married, you have to hold a license, like practicing medical. In order for you to practice medical on your own or even practice as an attorney, you must get an attorney license or a medical license. It's the only way that you'll be allowed to be accepted to practice that heritage or whatever it may be with the approval of the company, which is United States Corporation Company. The only way they're going to allow you to do what you're doing is to get a license. Get that? Like me, Class A CDL is a license. I must get that license in order for me to deliver commerce. There you go. You have to hold a license. Yes, there's jobs out there where you don't have to hold a license, but they usually don't pay as well. So for you to be a head honcho, to run your boat, your vessel, you must get a license. Then he got on sidetracked onto Social Security for the body social. So the body social is the money basically you're paying into an account from the body social, which is the American, or what we used to think is America, the United States in whole. They also call it United States at large. If you ever heard that before. So the body social pays into that account, but then the government only says, well, we feel that you only need $770 a month for disability to live. So here's your little bit of money. Social Security, you might be lucky to get out of Social Security, or known as body social, maybe $1,100, $1,200, $1,500 a month. That's not very much money to live on. So basically the government gives you that, thinking, that'll be enough to shut them up, keep them happy, and we'll just keep the money to ourselves and do what we want. That's why working for the United States, which is really not even a government, we just refer to it as the government. That's why they manipulate people, and people are such poverty and suffer so much, and the government has so much money they can technically give you.
It's more trouble. Give him something to live on and get him out of here, right?
Give him something to live on and get him out of here. Hear that?
When a ship pulls into port, because I said all of our commerce is done by water, our biggest business is shipping, all over the world, shipping. When a ship pulls into harbor, it parks at its what we call its berth. It's a berth where they berthing the ship, B-E-R-T-H. And so any item that was on that ship represents money. Therefore, every time a television or a car or anything, whatever that item is that's being brought here from another country, it's coming in on a ship, and she is bringing in the product, right? She. When the ship parks, it's sitting in its berth, and therefore every single item coming off of that ship has to have its own certificate of manifest. Why? Because yesterday the ship wasn't here, but this morning you come to work and there's a ship here with $800 million worth of Toyotas. So it's manifest.
There you go. The ship is sailed across the sea. She is sailed across the sea, and then she is docked and birth. So birth is the sitting at the location of the dock. So they're docked, it is birth. So at that moment, they're going to pull the product off of the boat, which means product coming off, giving birth into labor. It requires people to perform labor to get it off. So to get it off the ship. So there you go. And then after that, they have to create for each one of those vehicles or whatever they're shipping. Just they use vehicles as an easier item to identify, because when you're pulling vehicles off, they have to create a manifest for each one. The manifest is basically the birth certificate for that vehicle. It's basically saying, hey, manifest. That means that vehicle is going from water to the land. Remember, land is man. So he manufactured. So the man technically took the vehicle and put it on the man's land. Therefore, it is manifest. They take it into documentation. Now it is on the land. So that's why I call it a manifest. It's a good way to remember that. This guy here breaks it down really well. But whenever they accept that, pay attention. He's going to tell you, because I got to call it out. People with anxiety, they miss these things. He'll tell you in that manifest, basically it gives the cars where it was made. It'll say like Tokyo, or in the UK, it was made in some other land, like, you know, like your toys and stuff. What year it was manufactured. Was it a 2019 vehicle? What color is it? The car was blue, just like children. The child was this many pounds. This child is white in color. This child has blue eyes. This child has this, that, just like a car. So when they take the child, then they write on the certificate of live birth, and then they turn that and hand that over to the state, and the state provides you a birth certificate. Two different things. So when your child is born, a certificate of live born or birth is created by the doctor. They create that, put the details of the child. They'll make that child look like an animal in the belly and everything, and then they'll show the body developing into a person. Okay? That's how they develop you from an animal to a person. That's the evolution of it. And then they make you a person, therefore they make your name. So my daughter, like, it was the mother's name and then baby girl. So it was like, how's her baby girl? That was her name when she was born. And then once they document the child and notice that the child has a father or whatever it may be, or if it's keeping the mother's name, then they give the child an alias, which is the name you're known as, like in the military. Like I may be known as Aaron, so Aaron Grimes. The child would be known as Summer Grimes, right? So I'm giving you examples because this is the stuff I pulled up for my court records. So the child was born was Hauser baby girl. That was her name. Hauser and baby girl was one word. So Hauser was one word, baby girl was another word. No comma, Hauser baby girl. That's it. So technically, well, I think there might have been a comma. But anyways, that means baby girl Hauser. So that means baby girl's first name, Hauser's last name. If I was to look up a death certificate for that name, I bet you I'd find one. The state keeps it very confidential because they have to kill or give a death certificate to that item whenever it is killed. That way they can make another security and call it Summer Grimes now. Instead of Hauser baby girl, now you got two securities. Or they may leave it open-ended, and that's where they can manipulate and launder money into another account that you would never see or know about. Very tricky, guys. So listen. He's going to tell you about child being born, right? The ship docks. It is born. It is docked at the bay. At birth or born, they are now giving labor to produce the product. They are taking the product out of the vessel, which the vessel is in the water. She, the mother. There you go. So, he's going to explain it.
So you have to have a manifest, and it's called a certificate of manifest, which goes with each one of those products. And on that manifest, it tells you, is it a 4-door, is it 2 doors, does it have air conditioning, what nationality is it, how much does the baby weigh, what color eyes does he have, and, you know, and does he have 5 fingers, and is he African, or what, does he have air conditioning? So you are simply a product because you are a product.
So you see that document he's showing you, you're directly just a product. It's a certificate of live birth. See that? That's not a birth certificate though. Well, sometimes they're called that, but that's what it's called, certificate of live birth. And then you're given, they'll reverse it once it goes to the state Department of State, like Indiana Department of State, will give you a certificate in the mail that says birth certificate. So then they change up the name a little bit. Now they got another security they open. Each certificate, that certificate of live birth, actually has a securities code on the bottom of it. Now they'll hand you a birth certificate. It'll have a securities code on the front or the back. So now they got two securities. They probably made about 3 or 4 securities out of you right there. Talk about money laundering.
That has to have its own certificate of birth, so therefore you have today something called a birth certificate.
There you go, you reversed it.
And it has to be signed by the doc, because that's what the ship is sitting, it's a doc. And if you...
You hear that? It has to be signed by the doctor. Here's a kicker, guys. My child, or my creation, I don't even like calling him a child anymore. My creation, Summer Grimes, her documents were never signed by the doctor. And then they were electronically signed in a few spots by a doctor, which was not verifiable or acceptable back in those days. That was before they accepted the electronic signature under the UCC, which is Uniform Commercial Code regulation. The Uniform Commercial Code eventually incorporated into their rules that, we will accept basically electronic signatures. To me, that's fraud, because there is no definite idea, or anybody can construct a signature electronically very easily. I think it needs to be like they used to back in the old days, with the blood of the person, or that of that doctor, whoever it may be. So pay attention.
Happen by chance to have one of the cars or one of the TVs drop off in the ocean, that's okay. There are insurances that cover that, but you have to have a death certificate. Why? Because you're not just going to lose a car and the bank is not going to make money.
Okay, I know I keep pausing this, but listen, he said if a car falls off a ship, you need to have some kind of verification or record showing of that, because you need to still account for that vehicle, so that whoever made it or whatever still gets paid. It ain't supposed to just disappear. So whenever your child is premature and it may die at birth, you give it a death certificate still, right? So the same thing he's talking about here. The ship may have fell off, or the vehicle may have fell off the ship. Basically, it died. So therefore, it gets a death certificate.
Tell them that. You lost a car? Yeah, well, you better go find it. And if you can't find it, then you need to go through the regulations and sign a death certificate. And that's why, as I said, that's why you have to have a license, because this is a corporation. And used to, when we were a republic, you could wear a gun anytime you wanted, and you could go into town and go in the bar, and if you have a falling out with a guy in the bar, you can either settle it like gentlemen, or you can go out in the street and duel. And one of you is not going home tonight, see? Why? Because it was a free country, and individuals, men and women and children, when this country was founded, was said to be, and it was understood that you are a sovereign in this country. That's why you could wear a gun anytime you wanted. Cowboys wear guns, and then people even in the eastern states will wear guns. Why? Because you are a sovereign under international.
Look at that definition, sovereign. So did you understand any of that? So, republic, he said, so before they did all these new rules and regulations, and before you were a United States citizen, which means you were or debt slaves basically, so you had to listen to the United States Corporation Company's policies. Policy is not law. He'll explain that. Policies that companies give you, even whenever these police are out here pushing what they call law, it's the company's bylaws. It's not actually law. It is policies. You could throw that in the judges, anybody's face, say, no, it's not law, it's policy. And they'll get pissed off. No, it's our laws. Well, the United States Corporation Companies. you were illegally created as a United States citizen because under Uniform Commercial Code regulation, Uniform Commercial Code laws state that you must be an acknowledgement of what you're signing, any contract. If you're not an acknowledgement of that contract, like when you're born, your mother says, child needs a birth certificate, because they tell you have to have a birth certificate. They don't ask you if you want your kid to be a United States citizen. They say your child must have a social security card, birth certificate. You must sign here. The nurse will tell you that. Not the doctor, the nurse tells you that. Because the nurse is not upheld to the same standard as the doctor. Okay? Because the doctor knows more. He's got a higher degree. So if you were to go back, you'd have to sue the nurse, the doctor, all of them. They'd all have to be alive still. So anyways, you were considered a republic when you were born at first, whenever you were naturalized. But once you came out of your mother and produced and you got that birth certificate and social security card, you are no longer republic or sovereign anymore. You were considered then a U.S. citizen. Therefore, you're upheld by policy. You get it? Police is spelled what? P-O-L-I-C-E. They shortened the word to confuse you. Police are actually called policy. They are policy pushers. So what they do is they go around and make sure you follow the laws or policies. They make sure you follow the policies, not laws. They're not laws, they're policy. So, sovereign, a supreme ruler, especially a monarch, like a king or a queen, possessing supreme or ultimate power. So technically, back years ago, our ancestors were sovereign until they bankrupted America and made it United States of America. That's why they put of in there, of America. It's not technically America, it's of America. That's like put your products on the left side of garage or of garage driveway. Okay, well, what does that mean? Where do you put it? Do you put it in the driveway or beside the garage in the driveway? Out of the driveway. So put it on the left side of garage of driveway. Technically, you put it on the grass, left side of the driveway, out of the way of the garage. It has nothing to do with the garage. It has nothing to do with that driveway. You put it out of the way. So, United States is considered out of the way. So, therefore, you are a U.S. citizen. United States. Okay? Very weird explanations for me, but still. This Jordan Maxwell, he explains it a little better. I just gave you a definition or a way to remember it from my point of view. My examples. So, if you were sovereign, you were technically your own rule maker. You were the law. So whatever you did, whatever your beliefs were, that's how things went for you. If you ran into a guy in the bar, like he said, you guys had a little bit of a pickle. You didn't like each other. You either civilly handled it, just agreed with it, you bought each other drinks and said screw it, or you ended up fighting it out. You go outside and shoot the hell out of each other, and one's going to go home, or maybe both may not go home. But that was completely perfect. Back in the cowboy days, the western days, Clint Eastwood, pow, shoot somebody, kill him, walk away, whatever. Then the judge's sheriff would come along and try to push law onto that person. Then he would shoot the sheriff. Like the old song, I shot the sheriff, but I did not shoot no deputy. There you go. All right, guys. Very many crazy examples, but this guy here, he'll break it down to you. Here you go.
No law. Anyone born in the United States of America was a sovereign, which means you're a king or a queen. And so the man was king of his realm, king of his home. And women were the queens. A king and a queen have the privilege of declaring war on any time they please on anyone they please. That's one of the nice things about being a king. You don't need to ask anybody permission. You want to go out and pick a fight? Well, you better have a gun with you. It doesn't mean you're going to win, and it doesn't mean you're smart for doing that. It just means you're armed, and you're going to face another guy, and he's armed, so you better figure out if you can do this or not, right? Now we understand that your body is like 78% water. And when you come out of your mother, her water broke. So therefore, everything we do in commerce is based on water. And that being the case, is based on shipping. The idea is don't rock the boat when you're at work. Don't rock the boat. We run a tight ship here. We don't want to rock the boat. And so, are you with us, mate? Yeah, come aboard on the citizenship. And so now you got the dealership and sportsmanship and citizenship and all the different kind of words that end in ship. Why do you have banks? Where do you find banks? Banks are on both sides of a river. They're called river banks. What does a river bank do? It directs the flow of the currency. Money runs through your hands like water. No, money is water. That's when you put it into a bank, it's called currency. Because it's a current, it's an ebb and flow. Comes in and goes out. It comes in and goes out. It's a flow of money. And then money is water. Money is a cash flow, a liquid asset. There's a reason why.
Liquid asset. You know, as they always have bank accounts called the liquid Chase, the Chase liquid account. You know, liquid checking account, things like that. Currency, money, your dollar bills, all that is considered a medium, also known as currency. So currency is what you're using at that time to, you know, pay for or to keep things going. So money is currency. Currency is like water. Waters have currents in them, right? Waves, current. Keeps things moving. It always constantly moves, never stopping. So that's why water is considered current, or money is considered currency, because banks are water, right? Remember he said that? Bank of water. Banks are water, therefore they have currency in them. Therefore they keep things moving with the currency. So there you go. I'm going to pause this, do a couple things, and then we'll get back to it. Okay, we got that done. So now I'm going to continue this. Just a second.
There's a reason why everything works the way it does. In a corporation, let's say you work for General Electric or...
He said there's a reason why everything works the way it does. In a corporation.
A Ford Motor Company. General Electric cannot make law like stamped in stone. Whatever General Electric does, they don't have the power to create law. But they do have the power as a corporation to make their policy. And so they will tell you, look, it's just our policy. There's no damn law. There's no law that says it. But our policy is for you to show up at 7 o'clock in the morning. That's just our policy. And our policy says that you take off at 11:30 for lunch and you go home at 4 o'clock. That's just our policy. It's not written in stone in God's law. It's just our policy. So today, you ask any politician, what kind of law do we have in this country today? They would tell you it's called public policy. It's a policy. It's not law. Who came up with that policy? Well, we have policy makers. Oh, really? Policy makers? Oh, okay. Yeah, they're lawmakers. They're the lawmakers. They make the policy. They don't make law. They make a policy. And it's just our policy that you do this and you do that. And you go 65 on the highway and you do this. You park there and these are all just our policy. And the police will see to it you abide by it. So that's where the police come in. Because back in the John Wayne days and the cowboy and Indians, there was no police. Why? Because you have a constitution. You are a free man and can do whatever you please to do. But you take care of yourself. There's no government checks. There's no government anything. You just take care of yourself. And if you want to buy a gun, buy 10 of them. It doesn't matter. Nobody cares. You're free as an American. But today, you're no longer an American. You are a U.S. citizen. U.S. is a privately owned company, a corporation. It's called a municipal corporation. It's a company. Well, according to corporate law, you have to have, this is in all corporate law, you've got to have a president of the corporation. That's just corporate law. You've got to have a vice president of the corporation, and you got to have a secretary treasurer. Because those three guys are the main ones that handle the money. And since we are giving you permission, I'm giving you permission because I'm playing the part of God. I am the corporation, 1870. But if I'm going to give you the privilege, and you can be a corporation too. But I gave you permission. So I want 20% off the top. You understand? It's just business.
Okay, did you catch that all? So he said, technically, corporations cannot make law, which they call them whenever you, like, say you started a new business. In the beginning, they tell you to create your incorporated bylaws, corporation bylaws. So that's where you incorporate your laws. You could technically just put in that space laws that abide by state and there in which the business is in, domesticated. So that means where that business is local, domestic is local, so where that business is located. So if you're in Indiana, then your business abides by state law. So they could just make it as simple as that. So therefore, you're upheld by the MSHA, OSHA federal laws and the state regulated laws. So they're not really laws, they're policies. Just like he said, back in the John Wayne Indian and cowboy days, they'd fight, kill each other, didn't matter, they were sovereign. That means basically, and this is where policy came in, where people enjoyed it, is the fact that people just can't walk down the road and just walk in your house and shoot and kill you and get away with it. Now you can't do that, because now we got policies in place, which is technically what we call laws nowadays. So the commission for the laws, which is the commission board, they are the ones who get all together and they create, for in Indiana, what they call the Indiana legislature. So they create the laws. So sorry, I'm having to focus here, but basically that means you're just upheld by policy. If you want to go to court and fight that, a lot of times the courts will rule against you, because here's the thing, they are upheld by policy. They are a policy. You know what I mean? So they're like, we got to uphold the policy, so do you. So we're just going to enforce that you follow policy. Screw your rights as a sovereign. You're no longer a sovereign. They don't recognize you as that. So technically, if you ever listen, judges are considered officers of the court, right? Police officers are officers of the court. False. Sheriff, deputies are officers of the court. Get that? So, deputy. I shot the sheriff, but I did not shoot no deputy. Deputy is, okay? So, you shot the sheriff, but not no deputy. There you go. You can look up the definition of both. There's two different things. Policy is all you're following. You actually did not want to follow policies and you wanted to practice your sovereign right, you were actually allowed to, because when you were born, the state did not tell you that they were assuming, which basically means they're just going to take your body and claim it. They were claiming your body as theirs, and therefore you have to, that's how the judges can make rules in behalf of your person. So, there you go. They can make the rules and regulate you to death with their policies. So, they make the rules, make the regulations, make the policies. You have to follow them now. Unfair? Yes, very much so. Because technically, like I said, under UCC, which is actually laws that are over commercial transactions, like, ships set at sea, you buy stuff, all those products that are coming over the ocean are upheld by maritime law and UCC law. It's a commercial transaction. So that way, if you get screwed over by some guy who was some spammer, technically he's still upheld by that law, therefore he can be prosecuted. So, UCC goes a far way. So, whenever you were born and the state assumed property of your person at that time, or of your child, they actually broke the law at that time. Or not even broke the law, they just basically, there's no contract. The contract is basically void or null. But if you go along with it, then the contract stays in full effect and your child is a U.S. citizen owned by the state or the combined states. And now if you try to fight that and you go to court, many people have been, guys, they've been getting thrown in jail to be set as an example. And they state it. They'll say, like last time I went to court, they said, are you part of a sovereign citizen movement? No, I'm not part of any group or movement, but I do believe that each is entitled to their own sovereignty. And that's exactly what I stated. And I said nothing wrong. I spoke my opinion because I am entitled to my opinion. If I would have immediately said, yes, I'm part of a sovereign movement, they would have took my person and contempted them right into court, right in the court, right into jail. Because contempt means they're going to hold your body in the cell, in a cage, like an animal. They're allowed to do that. That's what they do. Penal code is what they call it. So, now I got off track a little bit, but I'm still regulating, showing you guys what, or trying to get everything put into place so you guys understand, or not really understand, so you guys can acknowledge what's going on. So, back to it. You're technically supposed to be sovereign. You're supposed to be your own law and state. I believe people are awakening, and they're waking up, they're woke, and they're realizing this, and now things are getting ready to start going back to that, hopefully. That way America is not ruled by another country anymore. You will be entitled to your own space. There's only one problem with that, guys. You're going to have to get your own weapons. You're going to have to practice and be diligent and learn to fight. So it's always best to put your children in militaries. Let them learn what it's like and let them learn how to protect themselves. And you can train them any way and all ways you can. Take them shooting. Teach them young. Teach them ins and out, how to take a rifle apart, what parts interchange with another rifle, if those parts broke. That way they can protect themselves in a war situation. You get what I'm saying? Like a car, your car breaks down. You got a Ford Expedition, or just say your tire blew out. Well, then you know, okay, well, I think that Dodge over there has the same similar bolt pattern as my Ford, so I know that's interchangeable. You get what I'm saying? Dodge has interchangeable engines with Chevy. The 3.4s, I believe is what it was, 3.6s. 3.5s. So there's some interchangeable parts there. Technically, Dodge and Chevy have interchangeable parts with foreign vehicles, like Mitsubishi. Now I know that I can go to Mitsubishi Galant and get parts for a, like an Impala or something, whatever it may be. And Nissan. It's very important to know these interchangeables. You got to know how to survive. Because if things went bad and they regulated a martial law and your vehicle is disabled by a repair, you need to know what you need to do to survive. This is why I am making these videos, because I feel it's very important you know how to protect yourself and how to be able to get on your feet and stand back against what they are disabling you with. So, very important. Get your hands dirty. Open your minds and accept everything you're hearing, because this is real stuff. This is real life. Things they've been doing to you since you were born, you didn't even know it. So you need to educate your children, educate our own children.
When we're talking about the Federal Reserve, first thing you need to understand is, where is the Federal Reserve's corporate headquarters?
So the Federal Reserve is the main bank of the federal government. They're the ones that make the money. They make your money. They create it. They can make as much of it as they want and make as little of it as they want. They can tell you the value of the dollar because it's called fractional banking. Therefore, $1. So if you put $1 in your bank account, that bank has the choice to say it equals $1 all the way up to $10 for that $1. Usually they'll say it's $10. So what that means is, if you put $1 in the bank holds it, right? Now the bank can actually lend out $10, up to $10, or up to $100 for that $1. It's considered credit. It's an electronic money. It's not real money you hold. So technically it holds no value because they're basically defrauding the system because we don't have enough money to back it. That's why our public debt is so high. They're creating money on top of money that we can't even back. It would take a miracle of sales of something to pay that debt back. So anyways, Federal Reserve, he's talking. Federal Reserve is the top-notch bank. They make so many different policies. Here you go.
Because it's going to tell you something when you find out. Corporate headquarters for the Internal Revenue and the Federal Reserve is in Puerto Rico, not the United States Corporation. And why is it in Puerto Rico? Because Puerto Rico was picked a long time ago, over 1,000 years ago. It was picked by the pirates of the Caribbean. That's why today Puerto Rico houses the Federal Reserve and the Internal Revenue. It's because the Federal Reserve is today the pirates of the Caribbean. When you begin to see that this is the whole setup in the Federal Reserve and the Internal Revenue, it's just piracy. It's just
that piracy, theft. So whenever you steal a movie online or you watch a movie on Kodiak or something like that, that's technically, they consider it piracy, right? Well, technically it's not, because piracy is whenever you record something and then you distribute it again. So like if I went and bought a brand new movie and then I copied it and made 100 more movies out of that, they call that piracy. Because now you're multiplying one thing already that is already copywritten. That means it's got royalties to it. So those people with the royalties, now you're scapegoating, you're getting around them, you're looping underneath, you're undermining them. So that means you're digging a hole in the ground, going under them, and coming back up on the other side without being seen. You're undermining them. Okay? That means now you're making all kinds of money off something, and now you found a loophole, and you are making money without having to pay the middleman or the man on top. So, very illegal for these guys. They don't like it. They want their cut too. So that building you're looking at right there on this video, he said Puerto Rico is where the money is held, or where the Federal Reserve is. So technically it's out of country, so they are foreign. Get it? They're foreign. They're out of country. Foreign business, foreign corporation. They are not domestic, local. So that big building right there is considered a corporation. A corporation is a vessel. Give it a name. It'll be a woman's name, right? Because it holds all of the water, currency, money. Get it? So, that's the way I can explain it, guys. So, they're out of country. What else is out of country that's within our country? Washington, D.C. When you sing the 50 Nifty United States song, Washington, D.C. ain't a part of that song. The 50 States is Washington State, which is far northwest corner of the United States, above California and all that. Washington, D.C. is not actually regulated by the United States. They are sovereign from us. So that's why when they make laws, you can't just go kill a president or something, because guess what? That president is not upheld to your laws. They just make it, and they're regulating everything and creating policies left and right, and they're free from it. That's why they make an example of them on TV and all this stuff, right? But then you never hear about all these people again. Because what they do is create a death certificate, they fake their death, they send them to another island out of country somewhere, and they're safe. You'll never hear or see from them again. Okay? Shit just hit the fan. So, now you're looking at Federal Reserve. Federal Reserve is the top-notch banks. IRS is regulating within them. So IRS is the ones that are collectors, basically. They come for the money that you owe. So just pay attention.
The Pirates of the Caribbean, and that's where they started. So what was the symbol for the Pirates of the Caribbean? Well, their flag was a black flag with a skull and crossbones.
You hear that? Skull and crossbones flag. That's why they say the Masons, who like George Bush and all of them, were part of the Skull and Crossbones, which was an elite group. Skull and Crossbones, I'm going to tell you now, you're going to hear him say it. Basically, that was the flag they flew when they were pirating. Piracy is basically a pirate. You're just illegally doing things. You're just doing what you want. Going to kill people, rob the ship, take everything that's on the ship, take everything from their vessel. So you were a part of the, what do they call it? Jolly Roger. That's what they call it, the Jolly Roger. That's why in pirate movies you watch, Pirates of the Caribbean, the Jolly Roger. They sell the Jolly Roger with the pirate flag, which is the skull and crossbones. Nowadays, the United States skull and crossbones flag is the Admiralty flag, which is the American war flag, which is your flag you're used to seeing. The blue square, red and white stripes, and white stars, right? 50 stars. That is actually a war flag. That is not your peace flag. There is a peace flag. Look it up. United States peace flag. Because we are always at war with ourselves and with everyone else. Right? What they would do is they put the golden fringes around the American flag. Therefore made it an Admiralty flag. That's why they fly the Admiralty flag in the courts. But go to a Supreme federal court, they'll have an official flag in an Admiralty court. But in the other courtrooms, they'll have the Admiralty flag. But if you go to the Supreme Court, they'll have a real flag. That's what I meant to say. So when you go to the Supreme Court and an Admiralty court, they'll have a actual flag. That is the war flag. That is the basically federal government. So like, say you have a veteran or someone who's in the military active, he has to go to custody court or something like that. Usually they'll move that custody court to an Admiralty court because he's actually upheld by the maritime law. I'm going to pause this. So he's not upheld by your laws. He is Admiralty. He is of the water. He is out of your jurisdiction.